Well, hello, my name is Jim Royal. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan and basically classic rock in general. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you could do a thumbs up, that's always most appreciated. And feel free to leave comments. I always enjoy reading them and I do my best to try to respond in a timely manner. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something fun, a John Lennon solo album studio ranking. Okay, so I'm going to focus on his studio albums, including the experimental albums that he did with Yoko. Even though some of them might not technically have been recorded in a proper studio, I'm still counting them as that. So we're going to start out with John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Two Virgins album from 1968, and we're going to go all the way to his last proper studio album, 1984's Milk and Honey. This was an album that he was working on at the time of his death, and it would have been released in 1981 if he had finished it. Okay, so let's start out with number 11. Number 11 is Unfinished Music, number 2, called Life with the Lions. This was released in 1969. This is an interesting album. The cover here alone shows John and Yoko at her hospital, well, at her bedside here in a hospital. She had just suffered a miscarriage, unfortunately, and you can see that it says it there, just what they were going through at that time. This is the back cover. So what this album was is basically it starts out with called a piece called Cambridge 1969, which is where it was recorded on stage there. It's about 26 minutes long. You have Yoko doing her avant-garde, sounds, wailing and stuff, and John is doing distorted guitar and has his back to the audience. Later on, there are some other musicians who pop up, but that basically is the first side. The second side is recorded on a cassette at the hospital bed of Yoko, and it starts out with a piece called No Bed for Beatle John. John and Yoko are reading newspaper clippings of the day and basically doing an a cappella type chant. And it's primarily Yoko on there. There's also a recording of the baby's heartbeat, which was sad because they later lost the baby. There is 2 minutes of silence on here, which literally is 2 minutes of silence. And then there's radio play on there, which is 12 minutes of static and going back and forth with the radio dial. This is something that is basically for the completist, okay? If you're a huge Beatle fan and John Lennon fan, it's a must-have. For most, I would say one listen would probably be all that you would need. But that's number 11. All right. I'm going to go with number 10 here, being the Wedding album. And this is, again, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. This was recorded during their honeymoon in March of '69, and it was released later on that year. This is an album which is kind of a cool idea, chronicling their album. There was even like just a lot of different pictures and stuff from their wedding in that time. So the first side consists of a piece called John and Yoko, and basically it's kind of a takeoff of Stan Freberg's John and Marcia, which was very well known, which was a single back in 1951. So John is saying Yoko, and then Yoko is saying John, and it's John, Yoko, and getting real emotional, different emotions there. And then both of their heartbeats are also on that too, in the background, so you're hearing that. So that goes on the full side. The second side is called Amsterdam, which was where their honeymoon was. They did a bed-in for peace there. They talked to journalists about why they're there and what peace means to them. There's very little music on here. John's dabbling with a guitar at one point. Again, this is one of those things, those albums for the completist. All right, number 9 is Two Virgins. This is the first album that John Lennon and Yoko Ono worked on, and it's basically was recorded at John Lennon's home in his studio there, his home studio. And this was recorded May of '68. It was later released November that year. And this is when he took her to his home. His wife was out of town on vacation. He's showing her his studio, and I like it in a sense that from a historical standpoint, what it does is it shows him playing with his tape loops, a lot of these different tape loops, this technology he had used on some Beatle recordings in the past. I found that very interesting. He's talking to her as he's doing this, and you've got this all captured on tape. There's a phonograph being played in the background, a song called Together, and I think Hushabye by other artists. And she's doing some of her thing on here a little bit too. But it's interesting from that standpoint. And it was the first thing that they did together, if I'm not mistaken, as far as recordings go. But it was the first album that was released. Okay? All right, now we're going to go with number 8. And number 8 here is Sometime in New York City. This was a double album from John Lennon and Yoko. It was released in 1972. The first half is a studio album, and the second half are live recordings from '69 and then in '71 with Frank Zappa. And there's an excellent song with Frank called Well Baby Please Don't Go. That cover tune is excellent. I think John did that during his Hamburg days, he said. But anyway, focusing on the studio album here, this was supposed to be like a newspaper, and John Lennon and Yoko said they were like news reporters of the day, and the song titles are the headlines, and then they have the lyrics, and that is the news. The thing about this album, I believe it seemed like it was recorded rather quickly. They have a backup band called Elephant's Memory, and to me some of it is just a little on the sloppy side. I think the most polished song on there is Woman is the End of the World. And I would say, even though it's controversial, if you actually listen to the lyrics, you'll see that it's pro-woman and pro-minority. I've always liked it. I just think it's a great tune from him. While John was really inspired and he had a lot of passion for these songs, I just don't think that, when he's talking about other people, that it worked as well, at least on this album. He's got some really nice songs on here though. I really like Sunday Bloody Sunday. I think it's a great tune, talking about the issues in Ireland. I love The Luck of the Irish. I think that's really good. I also like New York City. I think it's a real good rocker. Great tune. Yoko does some really good stuff on here too. She sings Sisters Oh Sisters, Born in a Prison. We're All Water, I like those a lot. Angela's a good song. So I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that it's not some of John's best work. And that's my opinion, and that's why it is where it's at. All right, number 7 here is John Lennon Rock and Roll. And I like this album. I think it's a good record. It is John basically paying tribute to his past in the 50s. Some of his heroes like Gene Vincent and Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly. You can tell he's having a lot of fun on this album. I think this is a good record. It's a lot of fun. I think standout songs on here, Stand By Me, which I really enjoy a lot. I love Just Because. I think it's really good. He started recording this with Phil Spector in 1973. Those sessions fell apart, and then he later finished it in 1974. I love You Can't Catch Me, Slippin' and Slidin'. I mean, it's good, and he's doing some medleys with some of the songs where he's doing a couple of them at one time, together, linking them. Do You Want to Dance, Sweet Little 16. Just Because, though, is probably one of my favorite on here. But yeah, some good stuff on there. You Can't Catch Me. All right, number 6 is Milk and Honey. This is an album that was released after John Lennon passed away. He was working on this at the time of his death. These recordings were originally produced by Jack Douglas, who also did Double Fantasy with both of them. This is, you know, unfortunately, it's raw and it's unfinished, John's material. But I like it anyway. And I remember I listened to this in 1984. I bought it as a boy on a cassette. I didn't hear anything different. You know, I just thought it was great. It's a little more, you know, not as polished, not overdubs and stuff. You know, it's just, these are early run-throughs of these songs. And unfortunately, they didn't go any farther than that. Nobody Told Me is one of my favorite songs off this album and one of my favorite John Lennon solo songs. I just really love it. Later, he had planned to give it to Ringo, though I'm glad this one was released. I'm Stepping Out is really a good tune. I Don't Want to Face It. I love Forgive Me, My Little Flower Princess. I really enjoy Borrowed Time. Also, I really love the Haunting Grow Old With Me. You know, one of the last recordings that he did that, I think, November of 1980 in his bedroom, I think. And it's just sad, you know, but it's a really great love song. Yoko, I like her Let Me Count the Ways on here. She did it at the same time that they did Grow Old With Me, you know, in the bedroom, and it's just a really good tune. Unfortunately, though, I think Yoko's material suffers here. I understand she wanted not to be too polished because she wanted the album to kind of feel, you know, uniform, a lot more uniform than, you know, than if her stuff was just so polished. But I don't know, there's a song called Oh Sanity on here, which I think is 1.5 minutes long. I just wasn't as impressed with her material, to be honest with you. All right, let me make sure that I got everything here that I need to. Give me just a second to do the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're on number 5 here. This is Mind Games. Mind Games is a good record from John. This was released in 1973. I like Mind Games. I've always liked this album. It's always been a pleasure for me. I really like the title cut. My favorite, though, the Mind Games is just excellent. I think it's one of John's best things that, you know, he has done as a solo artist. I like other material on here, Out the Blue. I like You Are Here, Intuition. I like Tight Ass. That is something that's kind of, you know, I've liked more and more. I've kind of liked it as time goes by. I like Meat City. I think it's just a fun rocker. There's some nice stuff on here. You know, it's a little more mellow, kind of more laid back, but it's definitely a good album and definitely worth listening. All right, so now we're on number 4, and this is John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Double Fantasy from 1980, produced with Jack Douglas. Jack also produced Aerosmith, among other artists. I think he did Cheap Trick possibly too. Anyway, I know he did. This is a great album, okay? It's just really good. John came back after his 5 years of semi-retirement. I was really excited with this. My mom bought me the 45. I didn't know this was coming out for Just Like Starting Over. What an excellent tune. I love all of John's songs on here. Everything is just great. It's John at his best. I'm Losing You is excellent. Watching the Wheels is really good. Sounds kind of like another Imagine type song. At least that's how I envision it. Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy is just a nice little song about his son Sean. Woman is, you know, the other half of the sky. What a great thing. I really love it. I really love it. I like Yoko's Every Man Has a Woman Who Loves Him, though I do enjoy John's version where they turned up the harmony vocal, and I think they have that as a bonus track on Milk and Honey, but that was for a tribute album for Yoko. I really like Yoko's Kiss Kiss Kiss. I think that's a great tune too. She has really, really strong material on here. This is a really good album, but I just love John Lennon's material on here. I think he did really well. Really great job. All right, so now we're going to number 3, and this is Walls and Bridges. Walls and Bridges is an album that was released in 1974. This was during John's alleged Lost Weekend period. This is when he was without, you know, Yoko, even though he talked to her pretty much, you know, all the time on the phone. He was with his partner May Pang at the time, and actually wrote a song about her on here called Surprise, Surprise, Sweet Bird of Paradox, which is a nice song. I like it. But my favorite song on the album is Whatever Gets You Through the Night. It's a great John Lennon rocker. You got Elton John on there playing piano, who was the hottest thing at the time. This is an album that I think is drastically underrated. I just think it's really good. What I like also about it is not a lot of these songs people have heard, and this is one of those albums that I didn't really get into till later on. I didn't discover it till later. Whatever Gets You Through the Night is just unlike normal John Lennon stuff, and I give him credit for venturing out and doing something a little different. Number 9 Dream is the other single off here, and nice love song. That woman saying John, John in the background is not Yoko, it's May Pang. Excellent tune. I love Steel and Glass. It's a great kind of a knock against, I believe, Alan Klein, a former Beatle manager and John Lennon manager, though John has said it's kind of a knock against other people. It's similar to How Do You Sleep, you know, that kind of thing with how he's talking. I really like Going Down on Love. I think it's great. I love the rocker, What You Got. I also like Bless You. That's a nice little ode to Yoko. I like Scared. It's just some great stuff on here. You got an instrumental, Beef Jerky. I would encourage you to listen to this. Give it a chance. It's definitely one of his most underrated albums. So that's my number 3. My number 2 is Plastic Ono Band from 1970. What an excellent record. You know, this was not something I grew up with. I got into much later. I listened to this a few days ago when I was putting this ranking together. Oh, this is just such a great record. You've got Ringo Starr playing drums on here. I think personally, he's playing the best that he has ever played, in my opinion, on this and Abbey Road. Just very good. I just couldn't, just amazed, like, wow, listen to him. So he's on there, so you got another Beatle on here. You also have Klaus Voormann playing bass. Klaus Voormann, if you remember, he was a Beatle friend from the Hamburg days. He played in, you know, bands. I think he was in, oh God, Moody Blues. Anyway, no, he wasn't with Moody Blues. I'm messing up here. The people who sang Eskimo, the Mighty Eskimo song. I'm sure you guys can leave me a comment here. But anyway, he later did the artwork for Revolver, the cover work, and he also did the cover work for Anthology, so that's him. And then John, of course, is playing guitar and piano, but the three of them are just very tight. This is a very stark, very naked album, very minimal overdubs, if any. Billy Preston, I think, is on there on a few songs, but it's just excellent. I love I've always loved that song. I think it's just great. I really enjoy Working Class Hero. I love that guitar, you know, that acoustic song. It's really good. I love Remember. I found out, well. There's just some really great stuff on here. Sometimes you have to be in the mood to listen to this album, I'll be honest with you, but it's a work of art and it's one of John Lennon's best. All right, my favorite one of John's and one of my favorite solo Beatle albums of all time, one of them is Imagine from John Lennon. This is from 1971. This makes my #1 pick right here. Phil Spector co-produced this like he did the 1970 Plastic Ono Band. I love this. You know, to me, I measure things, being a Beatle fan, I measure them with Beatle standards, okay? And while all of John Lennon, other albums, I love them too, when John Lennon polished up things and it sounded like a Beatle album, and half these songs were written during the time when he was a Beatle, and they could have been on Beatle albums, I was like, wow. And this was one of the early albums that I got as a boy when I was getting into their solo period. I got this on cassette, and I was like, wow. You know, I couldn't really tell the difference. It was done so well, done very well. I love Imagine. Talk about if there's a signature tune that best represents John and what he stood for, and you know, just John period, it would be that. Nice 3-minute piano ballad. I also love Jealous Guy. I think it's great. It originally was Child of Nature when, you know, he did it during the White Album, and I think he was playing a little bit during Get Back sessions. Excellent. I love the fact you get George Harrison on here on some songs. Oh My Love, what a beautiful love song. I love the Dig Against Paul. You know, the God, I'm not trying. How do you sleep? You know, and again, as John said, you know, we're both brothers. Brothers allowed to fight. We love each other. So that's that. I like Oh Yoko. I always thought that was fun. I like How. I think that's John kind of, you know, venturing, kind of continuing to develop as an artist. Just some really great tunes on here. I Don't Want to Be a Soldier. Literally everything on here I like. Crippled Inside is also fun. So that is my ranking. I am curious to see what you think, but I want to thank you for watching my video, and I hope you have a great day. Okay? Take care. Thank you. Bye.